Hey, what's up everyone? This is Dr. David Song, and today we'll be going over part 2 exercises for triceps tendinitis. I wanted to go over some more advanced exercises to do after that first month to a month and a half, so take a look. Hey everyone, so today's video will be a response video for some of the comments. Some of you guys are wondering what to do once you've overcome that initial period where the pain has subsided, but you can't just get back into that activity that aggravated your symptoms. Some of the more difficult activities that you might be finding that your elbow can't handle yet are tricep dips or chest dips. And this is because it puts a lot of load on that elbow in a deep angle. So today we'll be going over 3 different exercises that you can do that will progress you to get to the point where you can then do those exercises like the dips, once again, pain-free. Typically, these exercises are done once you've completed the first 6-week rehab program. That you can see those exercises in my previous video. If you haven't really prepared your elbow, these exercises can be a little difficult, might actually increase your pain. So it'll be really important for you to understand how to manage your symptoms. Please check out that earlier video. With that said, we'll get started with our exercises. So part of the reason why you might be getting some elbow issues when you're doing something like the dip is that your triceps tendon might not be well adapted or well suited for that deep elbow flexion. So today we're going to be doing an exercise called the beer pong triceps extension exercise so that we could get that triceps tendon used to being loaded in that deep elbow flexion position. So to get started, we're going to use something like a monster band. We're going to anchor it up top to something like a pull-up bar. You want to make sure that it's a stable one, so you don't use one of those pull-up bars that goes in your door frame. It's just not going to hold. If you don't have something like a monster band, you can use multiple regular bands and hold them together. The reason why is because we need a higher load for that tendon. As you can imagine, during an exercise like the dip, half of your body weight is going through each elbow. With this, there's a lot of pressure that you're applying to that triceps tendon, and it means that your triceps tendon has to be strong enough to handle half your body weight. So if you don't do this type of exercise with a higher load, resembling somewhat close to the amount of weight that you're going to put through your elbow in a dip, then you can expect that that exercise will still be somewhat difficult. So to get your elbow first used to this elbow flexion position, we're going to do this exercise. But as you progress, you can use something like a cable pulley system, and I'll show you that in a second. So to get started, you're going to take the band, you're going to hold it pretty close to your shoulder with your elbow bent as much as possible. And you want to make sure that when you're gripping this band, that it has some tension in it already. So this position is not completely slack, okay? With this, you're going to pin that elbow pretty close to the body, and you're just going to do an elbow extension from there, okay? Once you've gone to that straightened arm position, you're just going to take about 5 seconds to just return back to the starting position. The purpose of this is so that we can load the tendon under a longer period of time, and this will stimulate the tendon to adapt rather than just the muscle. In terms of the number of repetitions you want to do, you basically want to fail this exercise at about 6 to 8 repetitions. Reaching failure will mean that you'll either break form or you just won't be able to do another repetition at that point. When you're doing this exercise, it's also really important that you're keeping your elbow focused and pinned in the same position, so you don't want to be moving that elbow back and forth while you're doing that extension. You want to keep it nice and controlled. In terms of how many sets you're going to do, you're going to do anywhere between 2 to 3 sets. If you're new to this exercise, 2 sets is pretty good in the beginning, just so that you can get your elbow well adapted into this new movement. Once you've kind of found that doing 6 to 8 repetitions with the band becomes pretty easy, it's probably time that you hit up the gym and use something like a cable pulley machine. Similar to the banded version, you're just going to grab the cable from one end, you're going to start with it in a preloaded state with your hand close to your shoulder. Your feet can be positioned in a staggered stance and either foot could be forward, just as long as you feel stable while you're doing this exercise. From here, just like the banded version, you're going to do a full triceps extension, and then you're going to take about 5 seconds to return back to that full elbow flexion position. One of the main benefits of doing something like a cable pulley machine for this type of exercise is that you could better monitor how much weight you're actually lifting. And because it's actually labeled with how many pounds you're doing, you can actually kind of get a better estimate of whether or not your elbow will be ready to do exercises like the dip once again. Next, we're going to do some body weight exercises so that we can kind of resemble that functional capacity that we need for something like the dip. So let's get started with that. All right, so the next exercise that we'll be doing is the eccentric elevated military push-up. Now, the reason why we're going to be doing this exercise for the dip is that your body weight is technically leveraged in a way that it's not as much weight placed on that elbow when you're doing this exercise. We want to use something like yoga blocks to elevate us during this exercise, but if you don't have yoga blocks, you can use push-up handles, you could use textbooks, you could use anything that's just going to raise your hands equally up from the floor. The main reason we're doing something like the military push-up and not a regular push-up is that it forces your elbows to become more tucked in into the body. This will better prepare the triceps tendon to handle those deep elbow positions. So let's get started. From here, we're going to place the yoga block just like this on the floor. You're going to just go into that push-up position, keeping the core nice and tight. You're going to take about 5 seconds to lower yourself to the bottom position. So here we go. We're going to go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. So at this position, my chest is not on the floor. And if you have difficulty pushing back up, you could just go back onto your knees, raise the body up, and get back into that top position. The main part of this exercise that we're focusing on is that eccentric component, so that slow lowering phase. Now, if you can handle just pushing straight back up, by all means go for it. But I don't want that to fatigue the muscle too much, as again, we want to challenge the tendon more than anything in this exercise. In terms of number of repetitions that you're doing, you're going to go until you hit failure. So that might mean you do 10 reps in your first set, 5 in the second, 3 in the third, but that's completely fine. You're going to do about 3 sets for this exercise, and this is best done 3 times a week. All the exercises that we're doing today are best done 3 times a week, just because you want to give that triceps tendon a period of time to recover. So if you have any questions so far in this video, let me know in the comments below. I'll get back to you ASAP. But otherwise, let's get started with the next exercise. So the exercise that we're going to do is a modified dip. We're going to be using pure lat bars, but if you're going to the gym regularly, just use a dip station that's available to you there. We're going to modify in that we're going to shorten the range so that you're only really working the range of motion that doesn't really irritate you beyond a 2 out of 10 discomfort. For more information about how to manage your tendon, you can check out our other video about the top 5 tendinitis mistakes that people make. It's really important to recognize these things, as you don't want to flare up your symptoms during your recovery process. We're also going to be focusing on the eccentric component of this exercise, which is that negative downward tempo. We don't really want to focus on the concentric part of that exercise, because I don't want that part of the exercise to fatigue you and take away from an opportunity to just strengthen yourself through eccentric motion. So to get started, you're just going to position yourself on that dip station at the top. And from here, you're going to take about 5 seconds to go as low as you possibly can handle. So if you're not able to go all the way down into that deep elbow position, instead, you can go part way through. And once you're kind of at that threshold of discomfort, you could just place your feet down on the floor and then lift yourself back up and then repeat. Now that you've identified the range of motion that you can handle, you should focus on trying to take 5 seconds to reach that range of motion. So for example, if I can only go halfway down because my triceps tendon is unable to handle the load beyond that, I'm going to take 5 Mississippis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get to that halfway point and then start again. For this exercise, we'll be aiming for about 6 to 8 repetitions, and you should find that over a period of days to weeks that your range of motion will slowly increase as your tendon becomes better adapted to handle this exercise. If you're at a dip station and you don't really have a way to touch the floor with your feet, it's really important that you use something like a plyo box to elevate that forward towards you, so that you could just step down onto that box while you're doing the dip, and you don't have to worry about going down into the full elbow flexion before you touch the floor. In order to avoid spending too much energy on the concentric component, you could do something like hop up to the top position. So once I'm down here, I can use my feet to just jump back up and then restart once again. If you can't handle this exercise right now, don't worry, your body's really good at adapting to exercise. If you just give your body a few weeks to adapt to the other 2 exercises and really condition that triceps tendon, chances are you'll be able to return to doing something like a dip in the future. All right, everyone, so realistically speaking, your triceps tendon is going to take a period of weeks to months to recover, especially if you're expecting to return to heavier loads and doing exercises like a deep dip. When it comes to tendinopathies, tendinoses, and tendinitises, the pain tends to go away a lot quicker with normal activities compared to more advanced sports-specific activities like the dip, push-up, or any other type of triceps-based exercise. So really be patient with the process. Consistency matters a lot, and remember that it's probably going to take anywhere between 3 to 6 months depending on the severity of your tendon injury. In more severe circumstances, it could even take closer to 8 months to a year. So really check in with your healthcare provider to figure out what that timeline looks like for you. If you haven't checked it out already, check out my video on 5 tendinitis mistakes that people usually make when it comes to their recovery. These tips will help you you a long way with regards to managing your symptoms and making sure that things feel good while you're doing your exercises. If you liked today's video, please be sure to subscribe, hit like, and leave a comment if you have any questions. I'll see you guys next time.